Today we're having a look at this. This is a 50 watt in quotes floodlight from Aliexpress. And this was £2.68 including shipping. Now I don't expect an awful lot for £2.68. So I thought I'd just order one of these, see what it was like, take it apart and test it out. Without further ado, let's take this this lens arrangement off. I quite like the fact that there's kind of a separate lens for each of the LEDs. That's quite nice. And it looks like there's some circuitry over here, there's a bit of circuitry over here. I'm assuming it's not using a capacitive dropper. I think it's actually using the dedicated chips that you get on some of these cob LEDs nowadays. But yes, only taking it apart will give us the answer to that one. I don't know whether this has any form of IP rating. I'm going to say no, judging by the build of it and what it looks like. I don't think there's any IP rating going on here. Maybe IP0 or something like that. I don't even know if it's got a gasket underneath it to even vaguely prevent water ingress. So let's have a look and see what's in here. I mean, £2.68 or £2.63, £2.63, £2.68, something like that. Absolutely amazing. And of course it might be shit, but let's have a look inside. Okay, well there's really nothing going on there, is there? These are the driver chips here, I would imagine. I'm going to see if I can see what they are and bring up a data sheet. But it looks like obviously the main's coming in here. Wonder where that earth's going. Oh, nowhere. Yeah, that's going nowhere. Okay. Typical Chinese stuff. This looks like it's a fusible resistor. We've got a bit of a MOV for inrush protection there. That is clearly a bridge rectifier. And then over here we've got our three regulator chips. I'm just going to pop these under the microscope, see what they are, and I will bring up a data sheet for those. And those chips are CD1000 AEG, and I didn't get any hits looking those up. I wonder if maybe there's a bright power equivalent or something like that. And now that the lens array is off, this whole circuit board is just kind of slightly bending up, as you can see on kind of the corners there. So I wonder if it's just taped down or whether it's got glue on it, or well, it's certainly stuck down with literally the barest amount of, I'm not even sure what that is. That might be super glue, I mean, it's got the appearance of super glue. They've stuck it down with super glue. They haven't even put any heatsink paste on it. That's wow. Okay, well I do actually have some heatsink thermal transfer glue, so I think I might stick some of that on it. Really, I suppose I need to fire this up and test it, preferably without it overheating, because I don't know, that's a lot of LEDs. It's allegedly a 50 watt light, and this is very, if I just take this off here, this is very, very thin. And yeah, I really don't like the fact that's been super glued. I'm certain that's super glue. I mean, if you're going to super glue it down, at least kind of put some heatsink paste on the back of it and then kind of do super glue dots to hold it down there. Now I do have some thermal glue that I could use to glue this down, but I don't think I've got enough to cover the back of that, because ideally I kind of want to do the whole kind of like spread of it, don't I? And it really does need something like that. I suppose even if I could just do kind of a few patches just to kind of increase the surface area, that would be pretty good. I've not used this stuff before, so we shall see what it's like. Let's spread that across and then I'll have to clamp it down. Much better. So let's put that on there. How am I going to hold that down? Let's get the Irwin clamps out. Right, that is all glued up. Got to decide what I'm going to do with this earth wire. I might have to separately earth it. Maybe get just something around there on the end there and just earth it on there. Just earth it separately, I think. I mean, that wire's next to bloody useless, isn't it, really? For the moment, I'm just going to chop that earth off, I think, because I've got no way of attaching it to anything at the moment. I'll just have to remember to earth it. Interestingly enough, it looks like all the outputs of the drivers here are connected together there, and they all go to this bus bar. So it looks like they go to there, and then they're all kind of paralleled up but in series. So then they go there, and then it's really difficult to see on these white PCBs. I guess they must go, because they're definitely in series, so they must then go to there. And then these ones are all paralleled up as well, but also in series between those pads there. I'm going to measure the voltage across the LEDs and just see what they are. I might have to put something over this though, because it's a little bit bright. There we go, I can just about see that. Put that into DC volts. Stick that there. And we'll just put that across one of the LEDs. We're getting 8 volts on the LEDs. They're quite difficult to get the probes onto. Yeah, so the LEDs all have 8 volts across them. Oh, as an FYI, there is actually a silicone gasket that goes all the way around there. Still wouldn't trust this outside though. Just screw that up. Also the fact these screws are just going into, they're literally just screwing into that really cheap, nasty metal. But I mean, it is cheap, isn't it? You know, the amount of money it was. You would be in a world of health and safety violations sticking this outside. That is for certain. This is the bit where I speed the video up. And it's done. I think it's time to fire this up. Now, I usually lock off the exposure on my camera anyway, so hopefully this will give you an idea of how bright it is, and then I think in a bit I'll probably shine it out my window and just video that, and you can see what sort of a throw you get on it. Let's go ahead and plug that in. Well, bloody hell, that's bright. Yeah, that's really, really bright. The camera doesn't do it justice, but that's pretty much too bright to look at. Let's see if I can measure its current with my clamp meter. It's being a bit swamped out by the light, but that's drawing 120 milliamps. Let's work out the wattage on that. So it's actually drawing 26.4 watts. It's 120 milliamps at 220 volts. Let's disconnect that meter and just see how warm it's getting. And I've altered the emissivity of this thermal camera, so it should be a little bit more accurate, and it's saying about 72 degrees. Oh yeah, it's certainly quite toasty. It can't be far off that. There's a bit of it that's 75, 80. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is getting really quite warm. That will need some separate heat sinking, I would imagine. I'm going to give that a minute and just see how much hotter it gets. And just having a look at the thermal camera, we can see that that is, yeah, that's definitely too hot to touch. So this flimsy, oh yeah, yes, you wouldn't want to touch that for very long, certainly. This flimsy metal at the back, I don't think is doing a very good job of heat sinking it. I think I'm going to end up bonding a separate heat sink onto that, and probably even a fan. I think this gets hot enough that I can still bond a heat sink to that and get the cooling a lot better on that. There are a couple of comments on the Aliexpress listing just saying, you know, how hot the thing got, but I don't think any of them said it stopped working. This is what I had in mind for the back of it. Just bond that onto it. That would give it quite a lot more extra dissipation. And if the worst came to worst, I could always bolt a little fan onto the back of it. But it does have this curve to it. So I'm really going to have to kind of like clamp it down hard in order to bond that on there. I'm going to give that a clean up, and then, yeah, I'm going to bond that down. Right, so I'm going to put a spread of heatsink paste on here. Actually more properly on there. And I'm going to put a bit of super glue just probably there, and there. And then clamp it down, and that should hold it on. And we're going to use some of this nice, this is like Gorilla super glue, and it's all gloopy, which is nice. Can do gap filling as well, which in this application might not be a bad thing. There we go. Put the lid back on that. And now I'm just going to clamp it on. I'm literally just gluing that on there. And we'll wait for that to set as well. I've had this on for about 3/4 of an hour now with the heatsink on, and it definitely looks like it's running cooler. I mean, it's still quite warm, but it's not as hot as it was. And over here where we have that hot spot, that's where the LED drivers are, so I'm expecting them to get quite hot anyway, and you know, that will be well within their spec, I would imagine. But yeah, just adding that heatsink I think has definitely helped keep it a little bit cooler, and I think the addition of a fan would finish that off very nicely. And when I say the addition of a fan, I mean the addition of a fan and the addition of a proper ground, which I'm going to wire up shortly. One thing I've just noticed while playing around with this off camera is that it does actually have a bit of a flicker to it. I'm guessing that's because it doesn't have any smoothing on the input over there. And it's not that it's kind of flickering, but you can sort of see a bar that goes very slowly kind of up the screen. So I'm not going to be using this as a bench light. If I do, I'll have to see if I can put a smoothing cap in or something like that. But either way, it's you know, still quite an interesting bit of kit. You know, how they can sell it for that amount of money and ship it to the UK, I have no idea whatsoever. And it's now got to the point of this video where I want to see what the actual light throw is like. So we're just going to switch this light on and illuminate the building opposite, and we're going to go ahead and do that now. Yeah, it's not too bad, is it? You know, for a couple of quid light. I don't think I could recommend it really, just sort of as it is, because it just gets far too hot. Anyway, it was quite interesting to see what was inside it, and it was also quite interesting to put just a heatsink on the back of it. That seems to work quite well. But I think this is probably just going to go into the cupboard of crap until I can decide what sort of a project I can use it in. If you've enjoyed watching this video on dodgy Chinese floodlights, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.